He held the elevator for a lady, not knowing she was the owner of the company he dreamed of working for. You've probably rushed past someone today. Maybe at the coffee shop, maybe in the parking lot, maybe right outside your building. We all do it, we're all guilty of it. But what if that split-second decision to slow down could rewrite your entire future? Marcus Thompson was 23 seconds late. 23 seconds that would haunt him for the rest of his life, or so he thought. The interview was on the 42nd floor. His dream job at Meridian Industries, 5 years of college, 3 unpaid internships. Everything led to this moment. The elevator doors were closing. He could have slipped through. Young guy, athletic build. He'd made it through tighter spaces before. But there she was. An older woman struggling with her briefcase, fumbling with her phone, clearly having one of those mornings we all recognize too well. Stop or go, help or rush. The decision that changes everything often comes disguised as nothing at all. He held the door. "After you," he said. She looked up, surprised. When was the last time someone showed you unexpected kindness? When was the last time you showed it to someone else? She smiled. A tired smile, the kind that comes from too many long days and not enough appreciation. "Thank you, young man. Not many people do that anymore." Her voice carried weight. Experience. Stories untold. They rode in silence, floor after floor. He checked his watch. 23 seconds had become 90, then 2 minutes. The elevator seemed to stop at every floor. His interview was in 4 minutes. 3, 2. What would you have done? Would you have fidgeted? Checked your phone? Let the anxiety eat you alive? Marcus did something different. He noticed her hands were shaking, really noticed. Not the quick glance we give strangers. The kind of noticing that sees a human being, not an obstacle. "Rough morning?" he asked. Sometimes the smallest questions open the biggest doors. She laughed, not a happy laugh. You could say that. 20 years building something, and some days you wonder if anyone even notices you're human anymore. She paused. "Sorry, you don't need to hear about my problems." But Marcus leaned in. In a world that leans away, he leaned in. "Sometimes talking to a stranger is exactly what we need," he said. "No judgment, no history, just human." The elevator stopped again, 34th floor. A crowd pushed in, separating them. But something had shifted in those 2 minutes. A connection. Fleeting, maybe, but real. You know that feeling when you meet someone and immediately know they matter? Not romantically, not professionally, just significantly, like the universe tapped you on the shoulder and whispered, "Pay attention." She moved to the back corner. He could have let it go. Should have, probably. His interview was now definitely blown, but something made him push through the crowd. "Hey," he said, "whatever's weighing on you, I hope it gets better." She studied him. Really studied him. How often do we truly look at each other anymore? "You're going to 42, aren't you?" she asked. He nodded. "Meridian Industries?" Another nod. Her expression changed. "Interview?" His heart sank. Of course she knew. In a building this size, everyone knew when Meridian was hiring. They were the crown jewel, the dream destination, the place everyone wanted to be but few ever reached. "I'm already late," he admitted. "But you looked like you needed, I don't know, just someone to see you." She tilted her head. "And you gave up your interview for that?" There was something in her voice, not judgment. Something else. Something deeper. Have you ever made a choice that felt crazy in the moment but absolutely right in your soul? That's where Marcus stood, on the 40th floor of a glass tower, surrounded by strangers, talking to a woman he'd never see again. "My grandmother used to say something," Marcus replied. "She said the measure of a person isn't in what they do when everyone's watching. It's in what they do in the elevators of life, the small spaces, the quiet moments, when being kind costs you something." The woman's eyes softened. "Your grandmother sounds wise." The elevator dinged. 41st floor, 1 more to go. 1 floor between Marcus and his now certainly failed interview. "You know what?" he said, pressing the button for the lobby. "Some things matter more than interviews." The crowd looked at him like he was insane. Maybe he was. When was the last time you did something that made no sense but felt completely right? The doors opened at 42. The Meridian Industries reception gleamed like a promise he'd never keep. He didn't move. She did. "This is my stop too," she said quietly. The crowd pushed past them, eager to escape the morning elevator rush. But she lingered, and so did he. You want to know something about life-changing moments? They rarely announce themselves. They don't come with drum rolls or spotlights. They come in elevators, in held doors, in the decision to see someone when the world tells you to look away. "You should go to your interview," she said. But she didn't move either. "I'm already late," Marcus shrugged. "Besides, I meant what I said. You looked like you needed someone to remind you that you matter. We all need that sometimes." She reached into her briefcase, pulled out a tissue, not for herself, for her glasses, which had fogged up. When she put them back on, her entire demeanor had changed. The weight seemed lighter. The tired had transformed into something else. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. He nodded. "I've been coming to this building for 20 years. Same elevator, same floors, same faces that never really see me. Today was going to be my last day." The words hung between them, heavy, real, the kind of confession strangers sometimes share because strangers can't break your heart. They can only hold your truth for a moment. "Last day?" Marcus asked gently. "I was going to quit. Walk away from everything I built, because when you pour your soul into something and nobody notices, you're drowning." She trailed off. "Sorry. You don't need this. You have an interview." But Marcus shook his head. "No. I have a conversation with someone who matters. The interview? There will be others. But this moment, this won't come again. How many opportunities do we miss because we're so focused on the opportunities we think we need? How many lives go unchanged because we choose the practical over the profound?" "What if," Marcus said slowly, "today isn't your last day? What if it's your first day, the first day of remembering why you started? The first day of someone seeing you, really seeing you?" She stared at him. This kid. This foolish, beautiful kid who was throwing away his future for a stranger in an elevator. When did we stop believing in that kind of humanity? "What's your name?" she asked. "Marcus Thompson," he replied. "And yours?" She hesitated. For a moment he saw her consider lying, giving a fake name, keeping the walls up. But something in his eyes, that same something that made him hold the elevator, made her tell the truth. Eleanor. Eleanor Meridian. The name hit him like a physical force. Meridian. As in Meridian Industries, as in the founder, owner, and CEO whose face graced every business magazine in the country. As in the woman he'd studied, researched, prepared to impress for months. You know that moment when reality shifts? When the ground beneath you rearranges itself? That's where Marcus stood. But here's the thing about character. It reveals itself when the stakes suddenly change. He could have groveled, could have immediately launched into his rehearsed pitch, could have tried to salvage the interview that was no longer lost but transformed into something else entirely. Instead, he did something that would define the rest of his life. He smiled. "Nice to meet you, Eleanor. Really meet you." She watched him carefully, waiting for the shift, the sudden deference, the calculated kindness that comes when people realize who holds the power. It didn't come. "You're not going to suddenly pretend this was all strategy?" she asked. "Would it matter if I did?" Marcus replied. "You're still a human being who was hurting. That hasn't changed. Neither has the fact that you deserve to be seen." Eleanor Meridian, who had built an empire on reading people, found herself genuinely surprised. When was the last time someone surprised you with their authenticity? When was the last time you surprised someone with yours? "You really would have walked away," she said. Not a question, a recognition. "I really was walking away," he corrected. "The universe had other plans, apparently." She laughed. A real laugh this time. The kind that starts in your chest and bubbles up despite everything trying to hold it down. "Mr. Thompson, would you like to have your interview now?" He shook his head. "I think we already had it. The boldness of youth, maybe. Or maybe the wisdom to recognize that some tests can't be studied for. Some moments can't be rehearsed. Sometimes the best interview is the one where you forget you're being interviewed at all." Tell me about your grandmother, Eleanor said, surprising them both. They were still standing by the elevator, the Meridian Industries reception bustling behind them, but they might as well have been in another world. You want to know when someone really sees you? When they ask about the people who shaped you, not the accomplishments that defined you. She raised me, Marcus said simply. Single grandmother, 3 grandkids, more love than money. She cleaned offices like these actually, used to bring me sometimes when she couldn't afford a sitter. Eleanor's expression shifted. Which buildings? This one actually. Floors 15 through 20, the law firms, 20 years ago. He smiled at the memory. She used to let me sit at the big desks, pretend I belonged there, said one day I wouldn't be pretending. The universe has a sense of humor, doesn't it? Or maybe it has a sense of justice. How many cleaning ladies have grandsons who dream of corner offices? How many corner offices forget the cleaning ladies who make them possible? She taught me to see people, Marcus continued. The security guards who everyone walks past. The delivery guys who know everyone's coffee order. The cleaning staff who literally hold up the corporate world every night. See them, she'd say. Really see them. Because invisible people have the most important stories. Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. She sounds like she was remarkable. Was? Marcus smiled softly. She still is. 83 and still lecturing me about kindness being a strength, not a weakness. Still reminding me that the most important meetings happen outside of meeting rooms. Is that why you held the elevator? Eleanor asked. Marcus considered this. I held the elevator because it was the right thing to do. I stayed to talk because you reminded me of her actually. Not physically. But that weight you were carrying. She carried it too. Different reasons. Same weight. The weight of being essential but unseen. How many people in your life carry that weight? How many times have you carried it yourself? Eleanor turned to face the reception desk, then back to Marcus. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Your interview depends on how you answer them. Ready? The shift was subtle but complete. This was Eleanor Meridian, CEO now. The woman from the elevator was still there, but wrapped in 20 years of corporate armor. Marcus straightened. Game on. First question, Eleanor said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had asked thousands of questions and heard every possible answer. Why Meridian Industries? Marcus could have given the prepared answer. The one about market position and growth opportunities. The one every candidate memorized. Instead, he told the truth. Because when I was 7, sitting at those empty desks while my grandmother cleaned, I found a Meridian Industries annual report. Someone had thrown it away. I couldn't understand the numbers, but I understood the pictures. Regular people doing extraordinary things. My grandmother translated the mission statement for me. Building futures, not just buildings. She said any company that understood the difference between structures and souls was worth paying attention to. Eleanor's facade cracked slightly. You kept track of us for 16 years because of a thrown-away annual report? I kept track because my grandmother did, Marcus corrected. Every time there was a news story about Meridian Industries supporting education or community development, she'd clip it. We have a whole scrapbook. She'd say, "These people get it, Marcus. When you're ready, you show them you get it too." When was the last time someone's why moved you? Not their qualifications or connections, but their actual why. Second question, Eleanor continued, though her voice had softened. What makes you think you belong here? This was the trap question, the one designed to reveal ego or insecurity. Marcus had prepared for it, but standing there, with Eleanor Meridian herself, preparation felt pointless. I don't know that I do belong here, he admitted. But I know I belong somewhere that values what I value. Somewhere that sees a building as more than steel and glass. Somewhere that understands that the security guard's bad day affects productivity as much as the CEO's. If that's here, then yes, I belong. If it's not, then neither of us should waste our time. Eleanor studied him. You'd really walk away if the culture didn't match your values? I'd really stay in an elevator with a hurting stranger even if it cost me my dream job, Marcus replied. So yes, I'd walk away from a paycheck that required me to stop seeing people. The third question was coming. You could feel it in the air, the question that would determine everything. But Eleanor hesitated. In that hesitation, Marcus saw the woman from the elevator again. The one who'd almost given up that morning. Can I ask you something first? Marcus ventured. Before the third question, Eleanor raised an eyebrow but nodded. What made today different? You said it was going to be your last day. Why? Eleanor Meridian, who had stared down hostile takeovers and built an empire from nothing, found herself undone by a simple question from a young man who should have been intimidated by her. You want to know the truth about power? Real power? It's not in the ability to hire or fire. It's in the ability to be vulnerable with someone who has every reason to want something from you. Yesterday, she began slowly, I overheard two of my executives talking. They didn't know I was there. One said, the old lady's lost her edge, time for fresh blood. The other agreed. Added that I'd become too soft, too focused on that community nonsense instead of the bottom line. Marcus waited. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is create space for someone else's truth. 20 years, Eleanor continued. 20 years of building something that matters. Not just profits, though we've done well there too, but something that actually improves lives. And to them, I'm just the old lady standing in the way of their ambition. So you were going to quit? Marcus asked gently. I was going to announce a transition. Step back. Let the fresh blood have their shot. Let them strip away everything that makes Meridian Industries more than just another corporate machine. She laughed bitterly. You know what the ironic part is? Those same executives have no idea that our community programs are why our retention rate is triple the industry average. They see expense where I see investment. Have you ever built something beautiful only to watch others fail to understand its beauty? Have you ever wondered if fighting for your vision is worth it when everyone else seems to see a different picture? But then, Eleanor said, looking directly at Marcus, a young man held an elevator door, chose kindness over opportunity, reminded me that the values I built this company on aren't outdated. They're just rare. They're not that rare, Marcus disagreed respectfully. They're just often hidden, buried under the pressure to conform, to prioritize, to be realistic. He made air quotes around the last word. My grandmother says realism is just fear wearing a three-piece suit. Eleanor laughed. A real laugh. I need to meet this grandmother of yours. She'd love that. She'd probably try to feed you. Fair warning. She believes every important conversation requires food. Smart woman. Eleanor's expression grew serious again. Ready for the third question? Marcus nodded. If you could change one thing about Meridian Industries, knowing what you know now, having heard what you just heard, what would it be? This was it. The question that could unlock everything or destroy it all. How do you tell someone their life's work needs improvement without insulting what they've built? Marcus took a deep breath, the kind you take before jumping off a cliff, hoping water waits below instead of rocks. I wouldn't change Meridian Industries, he said. I'd amplify it. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Explain. Those executives who called you soft, they're not the disease, they're the symptom. Somewhere along the way, as the company grew, the story got lost. Not your story, the company's story. The why behind the what. New people joined for the prestige and the paycheck, not the purpose. They never sat in those empty offices as children dreaming of building futures. They never had grandmothers who saved newspaper clippings about companies that cared. You know what happens when organizations grow? The mission statement becomes wallpaper. The values become vocabulary. The heart becomes habit, until someone remembers why it all started. So you'd amplify the mission? Eleanor asked. I'd make it impossible to ignore, Marcus said, warming to his theme. Every new hire would spend their first week not in orientation, but in the community. See the schools we've built, meet the families in the affordable housing. Understand that every spreadsheet represents someone's future. Make it personal, make it real, make it matter. Eleanor was listening intently now. Go on. Those executives think community investment is soft. Show them the data, but not in a boardroom. Show them in the community center where kids are coding because we funded the program. Show them retention rates next to testimonials from employees who stay because they're building something meaningful. Don't defend the vision, demonstrate it. And if they still don't get it, Eleanor challenged, then they're in the wrong company, Marcus said simply. Meridian Industries isn't just another corporation, it's a statement of belief. A belief that business can be both profitable and purposeful. If someone can't hold both truths, they can't lead here. Period. The words hung in the air, bold, audacious. The kind of thing you're not supposed to say in an interview. But then again, this had stopped being an interview somewhere around the 20th floor. Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. You know what you're suggesting would cause upheaval, resistance, possibly resignations. Good, Marcus replied. Better to lose people who don't believe in the mission than to lose the mission trying to keep people. When did we start believing that keeping everyone happy was more important than keeping everyone aligned? When did we decide that avoiding conflict was better than protecting purpose? You're 23? Eleanor asked suddenly. 24 next month, Marcus confirmed. And you think you have the experience to implement what you're suggesting? Here it was. The experience trap. The place where dreams go to die on the altar of resumes. Marcus could feel the opportunity slipping away. Or was it? No, he admitted. I don't have the experience, but I have something else. Which is? I have the eyes of someone who's not yet blind to what's possible. I have the energy of someone who hasn't learned to accept that's how it's always been done. I have the perspective of someone who's been on both sides, the kid watching his grandmother clean these offices and the graduate ready to work in them. And I have the audacity to believe that matters. Eleanor smiled. Audacity. That's a good word for it. You built this company on audacity, Marcus pointed out. The audacity to believe business could have a soul. The audacity to prioritize people over pure profit. The audacity to prove them all wrong. Maybe what you need now isn't someone with 20 years of experience doing things the old way. Maybe you need someone with 0 years of experience but 20 years of believing in what's possible. You know what's funny about experience? Sometimes it teaches you what works. Sometimes it teaches you to stop trying what might work better. You'd ruffle feathers, Eleanor warned. Ruffled feathers can still fly, Marcus countered. It's the clipped wings you have to worry about. Eleanor laughed again. 3 times now. When had anyone made her laugh 3 times in a single conversation? Tell me, Mr. Thompson, what position did you actually apply for? Entry-level analyst, strategic planning department. And you think an entry-level analyst could implement the kind of cultural transformation you're describing? Marcus grinned. No. But an entry-level analyst who has the CEO's ear might have a shot. An entry-level analyst who understands the mission because he's lived alongside it his whole life. An entry-level analyst who's willing to hold elevators and have hard conversations and see people everyone else overlooks. That's presumptuous, Eleanor noted. That's necessary, Marcus corrected. You were ready to quit this morning, to hand over everything you've built to people who see your life's work as community nonsense. Maybe the question isn't whether I'm qualified to help. Maybe the question is whether you're ready to accept help from unexpected places. The challenge was direct, maybe too direct. But Marcus had already thrown away the rulebook. Why stop now? Eleanor looked at her watch. They'd been standing by the elevator for nearly 30 minutes. In corporate time, that's an eternity. In human time, it was just beginning. I have a board meeting in 10 minutes, she said. I was going to announce my transition plan. Marcus caught the past tense. A wise young man reminded me that walking away isn't the same as moving forward. She studied him. But staying requires something different, something more. It requires believing that what we built still matters, that it's worth fighting for. You ever notice how the most important decisions rarely happen in boardrooms? They happen in hallways and elevators and parking lots. They happen when 2 humans drop their armor long enough to see each other. What if, Marcus said slowly, you walked into that board meeting with proof that the next generation gets it? What if instead of a transition plan, you presented a transformation plan? Not stepping back, but stepping up? With an entry-level analyst as my proof? Eleanor asked, but there was something new in her voice. Hope, maybe. Or recognition. With a story, Marcus corrected. The story of a grandmother who cleaned these offices believing her grandson would one day work in them. The story of a company that made that possible through community programs and education initiatives. The story of a young man who chose human connection over personal ambition. The story of what Meridian Industries is really about. Eleanor's phone buzzed. The board was waiting. Decisions that would affect thousands of employees and millions in revenue hung in the balance. But sometimes the biggest decisions come down to the smallest moments. Come with me, she said suddenly, to the board meeting. Marcus's confidence finally wavered. To tell your story, Our story. To remind a room full of people who've forgotten why we do this work. She paused. Unless you have somewhere else to be? Marcus thought about the entry-level position he'd applied for, the careful plan he'd made, the traditional path he'd mapped out. Then he thought about his grandmother, probably watching her stories right now, clipping any article that mentioned Meridian Industries. Lead the way, he said. Eleanor strode toward the boardroom and Marcus followed. But at the door she stopped. One thing, Mr. Thompson, if we do this, if we really do this, it won't be easy. Those executives I mentioned, they're in that room. They have allies, they have plans, they have everything except what you have, which is the ability to see people, really see them, to hold elevators when it costs you something, to believe that soft is actually strength. She straightened her jacket. Ready? How many times in life are you asked if you're ready for something you can't possibly be ready for? How many times does saying yes anyway change everything? The boardroom was exactly what Marcus had imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a table that could seat 30, faces that had forgotten what it felt like to clean offices at night. Or maybe not. Maybe that was just his fear talking. Ladies and gentlemen, Eleanor began, her voice carrying the authority of 2 decades, I want to tell you a story about an elevator. The room shifted. This wasn't the meeting they'd expected. Good. Sometimes the best strategy is to throw away the agenda. She told them about her morning, about almost giving up, about a young man who chose humanity over opportunity. She told them about his grandmother, still clipping articles about their company. She told them about vision and values and the cost of forgetting why you started. You could see the resistance in some faces, the skepticism, the mental calculations of power and position, but you could see something else too, recognition, memory, a flicker of who they used to be before stock options and corner offices made them forget. This is Marcus Thompson, Eleanor said. He applied for an entry-level position. He's about to receive a different offer, a new position, special assistant to the CEO for cultural transformation. The room erupted. Objections, questions, concerns about protocol and precedent. One of the executives, probably one who'd called her soft, stood up. With all due respect, Eleanor, you can't just create positions because someone was nice to you in an elevator. We have procedures, we have standards. Eleanor smiled, the kind of smile that had built an empire. You're right, Richard. We do have standards. Standards that say we value innovation over convention. Standards that say we recognize talent wherever we find it. Standards that say we're not just building buildings, we're building futures. But he has no experience, Richard pressed. He has 24 years of experience being shaped by exactly the kind of person our community programs aim to help, Eleanor countered. He has the experience of choosing kindness when ambition would have been easier. He has the experience of seeing what we've forgotten to look at. Marcus stood quietly. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let your actions speak. Let your choices echo. Let your presence be the argument. Another board member spoke up, a woman who'd been quiet until now. I'd like to hear from Mr. Thompson directly. Young man, why should we trust you with something this important? This was it. The moment. Marcus thought of his grandmother, of her hands, rough from years of cleaning, of her voice, soft but certain, saying that kindness was never weakness. You shouldn't trust me, Marcus said. The room went silent. Trust has to be earned, but you should trust what I represent. The thousands of kids whose parents clean these offices, the communities waiting to believe that corporations can have consciences, the future employees who want to work for meaning, not just money. You shouldn't trust me. But maybe you should trust the possibility that your programs worked, that investing in people pays dividends you can't put on a spreadsheet, that a cleaning lady's grandson can see something your executives might miss. The vote was closer than Eleanor would have liked, but it passed. Marcus Thompson, who had walked into the building as an interview candidate for an entry-level position, walked out as special assistant to the CEO for cultural transformation. But this isn't a story about meteoric rises or corporate fairy tales. It's about something smaller and infinitely larger. It's about the moments that define us when no one's keeping score. 6 months later, Meridian Industries launched the See People initiative. Every employee, from janitor to executive, spent 1 day a month in the community, not serving, not managing, just seeing, listening. understanding the lives their work touched. Richard, the executive who'd called Eleanor soft, he resigned after 3 months, but not in anger, in recognition. "I've been building empires," he told Eleanor on his last day. "You've been building legacies. I need to figure out the difference." The stock price dipped initially. Some investors worried about the distraction from core business. But employee retention soared. Innovation increased. Turns out people who feel seen see solutions others miss. Marcus's grandmother did eventually meet Eleanor. They had lunch every month. Two women who understood that strength comes in many forms, most of them unrecognized by traditional power structures. They'd talk about Marcus, yes, but mostly they'd talk about the city, about change, about the slow, steady work of making things better. "You know what I love most about your grandson?" Eleanor told her once. "He never forgot where he came from. Even with the title, the office, the influence, he still holds elevators, still sees the people others walk past." "He learned that from watching me," his grandmother replied. "But he made it his own. That's what the young do, isn't it? Take our lessons and make them better." You want to know the truth about transformation? It doesn't happen in boardrooms or strategic plans. It happens in elevators, in held doors, in the decision to see someone when you're already late. It happens when we choose connection over opportunity, only to discover that real opportunity lives in connection. Marcus Thompson held an elevator for a stranger. That stranger happened to be Eleanor Meridian. But here's the secret. It wouldn't have mattered if she'd been the CEO or the cleaning lady. He would have held the door either way. That's the point. That's always been the point. In a world that tells us to rush, to climb, to step over instead of stopping for, the radical act is kindness. The revolutionary choice is seeing people, really seeing them, in their struggles and their power, in their exhaustion and their potential. Every day, you pass someone in an elevator, someone who might be on their last day, someone who might be on their first, someone who might just need to be seen. What will you do? Will you rush past, focused on your own agenda, or will you hold the door? Because here's what Marcus Thompson learned, what Eleanor Meridian remembered, what his grandmother always knew. The most important meetings aren't scheduled. The most valuable connections aren't networking. The most powerful transformations begin with the smallest gestures. Hold the elevator. See the person. Change the world. It really is that simple, and that complex, and that beautiful. Like this video if you believe in the power of small acts. Subscribe to hear more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things by simply being human. Share your own elevator story in the comments. When did holding a door open a different future? This channel is for those who believe that kindness is strategy, that seeing people is leadership, and that the smallest gestures can topple the tallest towers of indifference. Join us. The elevator's waiting, and we're holding